Tonight, before you sleep, you are going to check the mirror, the banking app, the view count, the scale. You'll go looking for proof that the thing you started is working. And tonight, again, it won't be there. So you'll say the 4 words that end everything. This isn't working. It is working. You're taking the measurement 11 months too early, and there is a number that proves it to 1 decimal place. His name was Daniel. He counted other people's money behind glass for 6 years, until a woman in a gray coat wrote that number on the back of a deposit slip. Stay with me until the end, because what made him quit 9 things in 6 years wasn't weakness, and it wasn't laziness. It was that he was right. Daniel Reyes was 31, and he worked window 3 at Meridian Savings on Dela Cruz Avenue. $2,340 a month, 6 years at the same window, 12 meters behind him, a wall of glass, carpet instead of tile, 4 desks, 3 lending officers, who made twice what he made. One of the 4 desks had been empty for a year and a half. The bank had a free training portal. 41 modules called Lending Fundamentals. Pass it, and you could apply for a desk behind the glass. In 6 years, Daniel had opened it twice. An officer passed his window, saw the portal glowing on his screen, and smiled the way people smile at something they've stopped expecting. It's 41 modules, Danny. It's not a personality. Daniel was not lazy, and that's the part that matters, because it's probably also true about you. Gym membership, 19 days. Accounting course, 4 modules out of 22. Guitar, 2 chords and half of a third. Running app, 11 mornings. In a kitchen drawer, there were 9 notebooks, each with 6 to 20 pages filled, then blank paper to the back cover. 8 of the 9 ended the same way. Day 19, at the gym, he stood in front of a mirror and looked. Week 3 of the course, he asked if he felt smarter. Nothing yet, and nothing yet, and nothing ever look absolutely identical from the inside. Every Friday at 9:10, a woman named Ruth Bellamy came to window 3. 74, gray coat, no matter the season. Her hands came under the glass ahead of the money, knuckles thickened, the back of the right one shiny, where 30 years of steam table trays had taken the hair off it. 2 $20 bills. Then a small blue paper book, a passbook, grandfathered in since the bank stopped issuing them in 2004. Once a week, Daniel took her $40, stamped the next line, and slid it back. He'd done it something like 300 times. He had never once read what was in it. On a Tuesday in March, Daniel's phone rang at 6:40 in the morning. His father, Esteban, 63, had painted houses for 41 years. That morning, he went down in his own kitchen and could not get up. Stroke, the left side. 6 days later, a doctor stood at the end of the bed and said the word window 4 times in 90 seconds, without once saying the word walk. The first 90 days pay the most, she said. The brain rewires fastest early. It never stops entirely, but it never again moves the way it moves in the first 3 months. 3 sessions a week. Insurance covered 12. After that, $95 each. 26 more sessions. $2,470. Daniel had 410. He went to work the next morning. He had no sick days left. At 9:02, with no customer in front of him, Daniel typed his father's account number into the terminal. Employees were not permitted to access family accounts. He'd signed that page 6 years earlier. He typed it anyway. He got the number wrong twice. $1,187.42. 41 years of ladders, 41 years of paint in his hair, and turpentine on his hands. His father hadn't failed. His father had worked harder than anyone Daniel had ever met, and had let every hour of it run back out through his hands. And in a kitchen drawer there were 9 notebooks saying Daniel was going to do exactly the same thing. After that, he couldn't stop reading balances. Every person who came to the glass, he did the arithmetic on their life. So that Friday, when Ruth Bellamy slid 2 20s and a small blue book under the glass, Daniel did what he hadn't done in 300 visits. He read her. Checking $312. And underneath it, one line his terminal could only half see, a linked investment account at the bank's advisory arm. Nothing on it but a name and a balance. $212,311. Daniel looked up at a 74-year-old woman in a gray coat, counting out $40 in cash. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm sorry. Can I ask you something?" "How much do you think I put in there?" Ruth said. Daniel guessed. He guessed high. 64,000 and change, 40 a week, 31 years, less the 6 Fridays I was in the hospital. I cooked school lunches for 29 years and never earned 31,000 in a year, and nobody left me anything. She folded her hands. "Do it on your machine." He did. $64,480. So where did the other $147,000 come from? Interest. Interest is just the name for it. It came from the years I didn't interrupt it. I opened it at 43, the year my husband died, and I closed it twice. Those 2 gaps cost me more than the whole first decade earned. She tapped the counter. That's how I know the rule. I paid for it. "Which fund is it?" Daniel said. "Can I?" "Wrong question." Ruth almost laughed. "I'm 74 and I cannot read a stock chart. I am not telling you where to put money, son." And she was right not to. Ruth's money grew in an ordinary market at just under 7%, and not in a straight line. It fell in 2000, harder in 2008. Nobody can promise you her number. The part you can copy was never the account. "My money grew slow," Ruth said. 7%. You could sleep through it, and I did. So stop doing sums about savings accounts. You're not a savings account. You're the thing that gets better at itself. Nothing on earth pays 37 times in a year. She looked at him. "A man does." 37 times what? Get 1% better at something every day. 1%. Not 10. Do that for a year, and put the number in front of me. He typed it into the phone under the counter. 1.01, 365 times, 37.78. Now do day 60. He did. 1.8. Say it out loud. 1.8. After 60 days of doing every single thing right. There were 36 points of growth waiting in that year. At day 60, Daniel had collected 8/10 of one of them, 2%. 60 days of perfect work buys 2% of the year. So when you quit, 19 days at the gym, Daniel said, 4 modules, 11 mornings running. He'd never said the numbers out loud before. They came out fast, like he'd been keeping them. "You weren't weak," Ruth said. "You were accurate. You took a measurement, and the measurement was honest. There really was nothing there." Then she made him run it forward. Day 290, 18. Day 365, 37. More than half of the entire year's growth arrives in its final 75 days. So a man who quits at day 60 doesn't lose a little bit, Ruth said. He loses almost all of it. And this is the part that empties drawers like yours. He never finds out. He walks away holding a perfectly true measurement. She put the blue book under the glass. Read line 1. October 7th, $40. Now count the lines. She pulled a rubber band off her handbag, and 6 more books came out, the oldest held together with tape. 1,612. They make you start a new book when you fill one, so I keep the running number inside every cover. Not one of those lines did anything. The books did. They call it the compound effect now in the books they sell. She shrugged. Terrible name. Makes it sound like it's about money. 3 rules. Don't add a 4th, you'll break it. 1. 1 line a night. A cheap notebook. The date and what you did. Not a diary. A ledger. If you did nothing, write the date and the word nothing. 2. Record the deposit. Never the balance. No mirrors. No scales. No scores. Count your lines, not your results. 3. Never 2 blank lines in a row. 1 blank line is a bad day. 2 is a decision. What do I put in it? Ruth tipped her head 12 meters behind him, at the glass wall. 25 minutes a night. That course your own employer gives you free. Then she buttoned her coat. Come back when the book has 365 lines in it. Not 300. She looked at him. I'm 74, Daniel. Don't take too long. The notebook cost $1.40 at the pharmacy on the corner. That night, Daniel wrote, March 11th, 25 minutes. Not which module, not how many were left. Rule 2, starts on line 1, or it doesn't start. 1 line, in blue pen, at the top of 140 blank pages. His father was in the doorway. He watched Daniel write it, said nothing, and went to bed. The clinic had no payment plan. The therapist printed a home protocol, 8 exercises, 30 minutes a day, and was clear it did not replace the sessions. Most families, she said, do it for about 2 weeks. So Daniel did both. He sold a guitar he'd learned 2.5 chords on, took Saturdays at the branch, and over 90 days paid for 11 of the 26 sessions. 11, not 26. That's the honest number. Then he bought a second notebook, Esteban on the cover. On the first page he didn't write line 1. He wrote the same number as his own book, because if his father was starting late, he'd start late at the same count. 2 notebooks, 1 number. Nothing happened. That is not a figure of speech. Nothing happened. Module 6 was called Debt Service Coverage Ratio. He read the same paragraph 4 times and couldn't have told you what a ratio was. His father's heel slide, 10 reps, got to 4, twice, and stopped. At line 26, Daniel caught himself with the eligibility page open, checking how close he was. He closed the laptop. 9 times that spring, he wrote the date and the word nothing. He never skipped a line. 52 nights in, the branch filled that 4th desk, a 26-year-old from Ridgeway named Trevor, who had the certification already. On his 2nd day, the manager asked Daniel to train him on Window 3. How long you been on the Windows? 6 years. Trevor nodded and didn't ask anything else, because there wasn't anything else to ask. Daniel went home, opened the notebook, looked at line 52, and put it in the drawer. The drawer with the other 9. He didn't write the next night either, or the next. On the 4th night, his father was at the kitchen table when he came in. Esteban's mouth still would not do what he asked it. The words were all there. It was the making of them that cost him, so he'd learned to spend as few as possible. He pushed the notebook across with his good hand. "Line," he said. "Not tonight, Pop." Esteban didn't move the notebook. He didn't have the words to argue, and they both knew it, so he left his hand flat on the cover and waited. Daniel wrote line 53 at 11:50 that night. 68 lines later, a woman at window 3 asked Daniel how the reset on an adjustable rate mortgage actually worked, in plain language. And Daniel answered her, before he decided to. The words were simply there, in order, in his mouth. He hadn't studied for that question. He had studied for 5 months. It wasn't that he remembered the answer. It was that he no longer had to. That night, the notebook was open before he'd taken his shoes off. His hand had gone to it the way it goes to a light switch in a room you've lived in long enough. 6 weeks later, on a Sunday, Esteban walked from the kitchen to the front door. 11 steps. No cane. The doctor had said 90 days. The doctor had been describing the easy part. Neither of them said a word. Daniel wrote line 189 in both books. At line 244 he passed lending fundamentals. 41 modules. Certified. And there was no open desk. For about a week, the old voice came back and said, "See?" He wrote the lines anyway. Then customers started asking him, not the desks, him, a man with a refinance letter he'd carried folded in a pocket for 3 weeks, waded past 2 open windows to reach 3. So in the back of the notebook, Daniel started a tally. 6 weeks, 71 lending conversations at a teller window, 19 of which walked to the desks afterward and opened an application. At line 328, he knocked on the branch manager's door with a $1.40 notebook in his hand. He put the tally on her desk and asked for 2 afternoons a week at the empty consultation table. Then he told her about March and his father's account number and the page he'd signed 6 years earlier. "I know. Audit flagged it in April. I let it sit." She read the tally twice. "This is the first interesting thing anyone at window 3 has ever brought me." That night, his father asked what happened. Daniel said he didn't know yet. "Line," Esteban said. 13 days later, line 341. The regional office approved a 5th lending seat at De La Cruz. 24 lines from the end. Line 365 fell on a Friday in March. It had taken 372 days. Trevor cost 3 of those nights. 4 more he lost one at a time, never twice in a row. At 9:10, Ruth Bellamy came through the door in a gray coat, handed 2 20s and a small blue book to the girl who had taken over window 3, and turned around. 12 meters away, behind the glass, on the 5th desk, there was a nameplate. Daniel Reyes, lending. Ruth sat down without waiting to be asked. Daniel put the notebook on the desk. The book went the other way this time. She opened it to the last page. What does line 365 say? 25 minutes. Good. Ruth closed it and pushed it back. That line is worth exactly as much as line 4. That's what I wanted you to find out. I didn't teach you anything, Daniel. I just stopped you from checking. She stood. You took the same measurement you always took. You just took it on day 365. 2,340 a month became 4,100, plus commission, the smallest number behind that glass. That night, he took the 9 out of the drawer and lined them up, each open to the page where it stopped. 19 days, 4 modules, 2 chords, 11 mornings. Then he put the 10th at the end of the row, and it was thicker than all of them. 4 months later, Esteban Reyes walked 4 blocks to the panaderia on Ortega Street and back. Slowly, cane in the left hand 11 steps across a kitchen is not 8 blocks of Ortega Street, and the left side never came all the way back and never will. But he walked it, and on the table that night there was a third notebook, a savings account number inside the cover in Daniel's handwriting. No passbook. They don't make them anymore. The notebook was the passbook. Line 1. $10. A disability check is not a paycheck, and the number being small was the only part that mattered. Esteban put his finger on the line and looked at it a long time. Small, he said. That's the whole point, Pop. His father nodded. Then, one word at a time, the way you carry something heavy upstairs. Houses. He tapped the line. 2,000. A pause. 1. Wall. You probably don't have a discipline problem. You have a measurement problem, and it's been eating the discipline you do have. You keep opening the account on the day you opened the account. 60 days of doing everything right buys 2% of the year. More than half of it arrives in the last 75 days. Everyone who quit at day 60 walked away holding an accurate measurement and lost almost the whole thing. If 2 of Ruth's rules sound familiar, they should. James Clear put the 1% curve on page 1 of Atomic Habits and wrote, "Never miss twice." Ruth got there 30 years earlier with a paper book. Nobody invented this. So, a notebook, $1.40, 1 line a night, never 2 blank nights in a row, and you are not allowed to look. Daniel still has those 9. He says they're the most expensive thing he owns. The person who is 37 times better at the thing you keep starting isn't smarter than you and isn't tougher. He is you, plus 365 lines. He just didn't go check on day 19. 90 lines with the mirror covered. That's all I'm asking, because 90 is where you'll want to check. And if you get to 90 without looking, you'll get to 365. Buy the notebook tonight. It costs $1.40. Then write your line 1 in the comments. Line 1. Tonight I did. I read them. I'm coming back to that comment section in 90 days, and again in a year. Tonight, nothing yet, and nothing ever will look exactly the same. In a year, they will not. Write the line.